Monty Williams introduced as the next head coach of the Detroit Pistons. A really great press conference yesterday, I thought. And one of the things that struck out to me, among a few, but I think it's telling how connected these players are with one another. Each and every one of them, outside of Bojan Bogdanovic, who is not here, they showed up for this press conference. I thought that was telling.
That's because they want a job. Shoot, when you play for a team that doesn't have 20 wins, your ass better be there because everybody could potentially get cut. I'm just making light of it. I'm joking. You're absolutely correct, though. This team
you're right.
True. I hate to come in
Both
and be
things can be true.
There you go.
Both things can be
Neil
true.
Rue. Shout out to Neil Rue. This team is definitely connected. You saw what Dwayne Casey did 2 years ago with the playoffs, the Boston Celtics. We talk about that team bonded then, whether it was Killian Hayes, those young guys, Cade Cunningham, and now here, Monty Williams. They're excited though, Ryan. They got a coach. Like when you're young, like you want names. Like when you're young, you want the name brand. Once you're older, you figure things out. I'm like, okay, well, I know this is the best quality of this. When you're younger, you're like, who's the best thing? And Monty Williams is one of those names, and you see his body of work. So these young guys, they explore their chance to get better. They explore the chance to have a coach that they've seen coach in the finals, that they've seen coach in the second round of the playoffs as recent as this year with the Phoenix Suns. They're excited. But what I took from that and watching it is you saw Monty. Monty still looks like he's fresh off the loss to the Denver Nuggets. He's fresh off of making the decision of am I going to coach? Am I not going to coach? And one of the things he talked about is he got fired. Having to deal with being fired, having to deal with that failure. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm not calling him a failure. By no means is Monty Williams a failure. But when you get fired from something, when you get let go, when you get dismissed, your mind plays tricks on you. Your mind tells you, it starts the questioning phase, Ryan. Am I good enough? Am I good enough to be a coach in the NBA? Can I get over the hump and can I win the finals? Can I get back? Can I work with this young team? And I think the best thing for Monty Williams is to sign this year with the Detroit Pistons. It's going to be the best thing for him because a lot of times when you have time to just stew, and my dad and I talked about this, shout out to CP, my stepdad, we were at the house kind of talking about this earlier. When you have the time to stew, now he's dealing with his wife.
Idle time.
Exactly. Idle time is the devil's playground. Now you have dealing with his wife and dealing with all that. Now he's dealing with, damn, I got cut, or excuse me, I got released, I got fired. Am I good enough to coach in this league? All that goes through your mind. And if you're not doing anything, if you're not occupying that thing, when you have failures, the fastest way to get over that is what, man? Have successes.
Yep.
It's have successes. So I think Monty Williams is going to coach with a passion that he may not have ever seen before. I think Monty Williams is going to be something for his family as well as our family, which is his as well, the Detroit Pistons. I think this could be something special.
To your point, Monty Williams, and I watched his press conference yesterday. It was great. One of the things he said is when trying to decide what to do with this job, his mentor, I forget his name, but he called him out as his mentor. He says, they might be just as good for you as you are for them. And Monty Williams talked about what it meant for his players to show up at this press conference yesterday. I want to play a clip of that.
But to these men over here, to have the whole team here outside of Bojan is amazing. It messed me up this morning in the meeting when I found out all you guys were here. You'll find out that I get emotional sometimes over good stuff like that. And I'm so grateful to all of you guys for being here. And I'm grateful to have dogs like you in the fight with me. And I hope you understand that.
I want to courtesy Anthony Colombo, our guy, Pistons Talk. We love Ant.
Yeah.
Great content from Anthony Colombo, Pistons Talk.
It's WWE guy too.
Absolutely. So again, what that meant to Monty Williams. One of the things that I also appreciate is his honesty.
Yeah.
Look, so many people will talk about this contract, and if he hits the incentives, can get to up to $100 million. Now, will he get there? We hope so.
Yeah.
We absolutely hope so. Otherwise, what are you doing?
It's true. Everybody wants to be like, they get $100.
But why come back and coach this year? Why not just collect a check from Phoenix, take care of your wife, who we'll get to her in a second, revealed she had breast cancer. We'll talk about that in just 1 second. But why come back and coach? And his answer, I love Monty Williams. I have the greatest respect for him now. He says, money. And anybody that says it's not about the money, they're lying to you. Because you could sit home, you could be there, you could sit close to your hometown or whatever. We all take this job because they pay us the money to do it. And there's no way he could turn down that contract to be the highest paid head coach ever in the history in the NBA or anywhere else.
With not one ring in sight.
So I appreciate Monty Williams for the honesty, and that tells me that his players will get honesty from him. He's not playing around. That's a culture that you set in that building from day one. We are honest here. That's what Dan Campbell does. That's what Brad Holmes does. They are honest with those players, and I think that is immeasurable, Tom Mazawey, when you have somebody, your leader, come in and do that.
There's no doubt. The guy he's a great person. And I remember when I think it was his first wife died in a car accident when he was with OKC. This guy's gone through some tragedies in his life, and he fights on. And he's with a bunch of young kids now. I think what's better for you than being with a bunch of young kids? Fresh faces.
Keeps you young.
Keeps you young. Watch it. That's why my kids, are everything to me. Your kids are everything to you. They look at me. They're like, "Oh, those your grandkids?" No, they're my kids. They're my kids. But they keep me young, at least young inside. And Monty Williams, I think this is really going to be, like Braylon said, I think this is going to be a great experience for him. And I think these kids are going to learn how to play some basketball, learn how to play some defense. He's bringing in coaches. He's got Steven Silas, one of the top assistants in the NBA. So not only do you have one of the top coaches in the NBA, you got one of the top assistants who used to coach as well as a head coach. And he was the son of the great Paul Silas. So basketball are in these guys' blood. And to see him yesterday, he's just a proud man. And you know what? I love this. I want to play this clip for you. He wants to be known as a Detroiter. Now, a lot of us, we think Dave Bing. We're like, oh, he's a Detroiter through and through. But he was not born here in Detroit.
Right.
So Monty Williams wants
I love this too, yeah.
Monty Williams wants to tell everyone, hey, I want you to look at me like you look at Dave Bing.
I want to, I think Troy feels the same way. In fact, I know he does. I want to have success here to the point where people think I'm from Detroit, the way that they think Dave Bing is from Detroit, even though he's from D.C. I want to have that kind of impact here. And like I said, I marry myself to the job. And I told the players this morning I'm going to give them everything I have because it has been a franchise that has a rich history. And that's something that's important to me.
And there you have it. Monty Williams, the new head coach of the Detroit Pistons. Yes, the richest coach in basketball. And there was another guy that got paid here in the state of Michigan that broke the coach's barrier. His name, of course, is Mel Tucker. So I'll tell you, as far as Detroit, as far as sports goes in Michigan, we are on the forefront of paying our coaches well ahead of their time.
No doubt. And of course, Dave Bing, born in D.C., went to Syracuse, made his home here in Detroit, eventually became the mayor of Detroit, and he's on the hand of all-time greatest Pistons.
Hall of Famer.
He is certainly on that list. And can Monty Williams be one of those men that leads the charge to be a Detroiter for life? I think so. And Braylon Edwards, just talking about Monty Williams and his want to be a Detroiter. He wants to be recognized as a Detroiter when it's all said and done. This is going to be his home. He has this is a destination now. There is no other job for him. This is the destination.
If I'm being honest, once we didn't get the number one pick, once we knew we weren't getting Wembanyama, generational talent, or once we knew we weren't getting 2 or 3, I kind of tuned out. Even when they picked up Monty Williams, I was like, it's a cash grab. Understandably so. I was kind of done with the Pistons, but then watching that press conference, kind of seeing that and kind of thinking about it from those standpoints, like Monty Williams was very honest with that team. then you hit the nail on the head right. And that team needs honesty right now. They're young guys. They're impressive guys. A lot of those guys are in fluctuation periods, whether it's Beef Stew. Is Beef Stew a guy that is going to play here? Is he going to have success here? Killian Hayes, we've been talking about him. Is he going to develop that shot? Is he going to be a guy that you count on? A lot of guys kind of floating and just dangling. And Monty himself is a guy that's coming off success, but not closing deals, is dangling. They are perfect for each other. Him wanting to be a Detroiter, that's what you're starting to see, man. Guys come here, like Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah doesn't live anymore, but when you talk to Isaiah Thomas, you understand where he's from, Chicago and Detroit. When you talk to D-Mac, where's D-Mac from?
Detroit.
Exactly. And I think that is catching on again what the Lions have built. Brad Holmes, who I had a chance to talk to on Monday, we'll talk about that. Dan Campbell. Eiserman's back home. Stevie Eiserman's home is Detroit. I think Monty Williams wants to follow in those footsteps of great coaches or players that call this home that aren't from here, and he has every right to be here. This is a place that people love to call home. This is Detroit, man.
I was going to say, speaking of calls and speaking of home, he got a couple of calls from some former Pistons and some Detroiters who congratulated him. Take a listen to what Monty Williams had to say about Derek Coleman. Then I want to ask you a question about this.
And Chauncey.
And Chauncey.
Sounds good.
I got a text call from Derek Coleman, and you know, I'm just glad DC likes me, because when you get a text from DC, you're not quite sure, you know. He was excited across the board, like different players historically who've played here. Chauncey was one of the first text messages I got. That meant a lot. So that should tell you about the players that have been here, what they feel about this team.
Braylon, I want to ask you about that, because I think it was funny, and it's great that Chauncey Billups, reached out to Monty Williams. Obviously, Mr. Big Shot, one of the great Pistons of all time, and Derek Coleman. For Monty Williams to be there, man, he saw the phone ring, and it's Derek Coleman. And anytime DC calls you, you just never know.
Yeah,
so, I mean, do you have any great Derek Coleman stories?
So Elysium nightclub.
Oh, I remember the Elysium.
Hey, you remember Elysium? Elysium was a beautiful venue, man. Ivid, I think, owned it. DJ Tom T, I know he's listening. He's DJ'd there many times. That was the spot. Probably circa day 2004 to about 2012. Very long run for nightclubs. Nightclubs don't last past 2 years. Very long run. I got a call. I used to go out there. We used to hang out Friday nights. Were the nights. You hang out on Fridays, you get it in, you go to Plaka Cafe.
Oh yeah,
Plaka. Have a little food, sober up for the drive home. DC called me one day, and Monty's absolutely right. When you get a call from DC, certain times you can send people to voicemail, certain times you can send somebody a text, I'll hit you later. Sometimes you just gotta pick up regardless. I pick it up. He said, hey man, what's this I hear about you getting in trouble at the club? I'm like, I ain't getting no trouble. That's because my guys were there. That's because my guys were there. They had your back.
Everywhere.
He said, B, I don't want to hear about this again. I was like, it was like, yes, sir. Like, DC is a legend in Detroit. DC is a legend in the NBA. DC is a legend in college. Like Syracuse, people still talk about Derek Coleman. Derek Coleman was one of the first power forwards that was like that. Like, I'm talking about could run, could dribble, create his own shot, back you down. He dunked on Shaq. Shaq admits to being dunked on 3 times. Derek Coleman was one of those people, but Derek is a staple in the city, and when he says something about you, damn it better be good, because if it's bad, you're in trouble.
I just love that. Again, I wanted to thank...
DC is Detroit.
Again, I wanted to thank our good friend Anthony Colombo.
Absolutely.
Love Pistons Talk. You can follow him on Twitter as well, at Pistons_talk, providing...
I got a good Chauncey story.
I want to hear it. Providing those videos on social media, though. Very, very great. And I love Anthony Colombo, and I just wanted to say... Shout out to you.
Amen. He's a good bowler, too.
Yeah, absolutely. Chauncey story.
Chauncey is one of my biggest influences, biggest mentors in terms of a pro mentor in a college kid. I used to go to him and Stack. You heard the story about me and Stack outside. I messed his grass up. Chauncey, when Stack left, kind of became next big brother with Jerome Bettis. And he had the silver Continental Bentley in 2004, that playoff run. He had a silver one. And when they beat the Lakers, he had a silver one. I just remember seeing it, like walking to this car with him after a game. I'm like, I got to get one of these one day. He said, don't worry about it, player. You on your way, number one. Well, he came to my celebrity, he came to my draft party, and he walked in with Rip around the same time as I was pulling up. I pulled up in the 2005 Mulliner Bentley GT Edition. He was like, okay, I see you got the same one I did. I said, no, big bro. This is the new model. You got the old model.
Oh, man.
I had to give him some stuff. But I mean, hey, he's got the ring. I don't. But
man, I
little
love
Chauncey
that.
Hey,
story.
you know
man.
who love their cars
Chauncey,
from the
too.
Pistons? I got good info on this. Nobody loved their cars more than Ben Wallace.
Oh yeah.
Ben Wallace, from what I understand, his wife didn't like all this extravagant cars he was buying. He would like give them to his friends to hold. He would be hiding cars everywhere he could hide a car.
Yeah.
But all he loved were these big. He just loved his automobiles, man.
But the good thing about that, for his sake, cars. I know they say they depreciate, but when you have money like that and you buy like that and it's less miles like that and you can hold on to a vehicle for a while, a lot of guys get into partying. A lot of guys get into partying. A lot of guys get into traveling. A lot of guys get into jewelry. A lot of guys get into women. A lot of guys get into other
It's
things.
the women's,
It's the
man.
women's, man. Gerard Warren. But a lot of guys get into other things that is the downfall of their careers. To get into cars, like Ben was a regular guy. He came to work in Pistons gear. You know what time it was him. He came to work and he chilled in the off season. Those cars add up, man. So I'm sure at this point now she's probably looking back like, I'm glad my husband was the way he was, because he could have been in a lot of other things, hiding exotic cars that will appreciate to about $6.2 million.
I think there's a few here in Detroit still.
Oh hell yeah! There are garages all over Auburn Hills.
No doubt.